Let's eavesdrop on a conversation that's been going on for 3,000 years. Seriously, it's a debate that connects three of the most powerful works of literature ever created, and they're all wrestling with one of the biggest, most painful questions humanity has ever asked. What's so amazing is watching how the answers completely change over time.
And yeah, that question is one you've probably asked yourself at some point. Why do good people suffer? Why do bad things happen to them? It's the kind of thing that can really mess with your head. And it's been puzzling thinkers and poets for millennia. These three texts, they give us this incredible window into how we've struggled to find an answer.
And just look at the sheer scale of this thing. We're starting way back around 1000 BCE with the Babylonian Theodicy. Then we jump forward 500 years to the Book of Job. And then we take this massive leap, almost 2,500 years into the modern era with Gauss Faust. 3 millennia, one single burning question. It's kind of wild.
All right, so let's start at the very beginning. In ancient Mesopotamia, the first answer our ancestors came up with for this question, well, it's a tough pill to swallow. It's an answer that's all about divine silence and human resignation.
The Babylonian Theodicy is basically our ground zero here. It sets up a format that's going to echo through the ages. You've got a guy who's suffering and his friend who's trying to make sense of a world that just seems totally unfair. You could say this text literally wrote the blueprint for this entire conversation.
So what's really fascinating about this first try is where it lands, or rather, where it doesn't land. It doesn't actually resolve anything. The whole thing ends in what you'd call a stalemate. The gods? They never answer. They stay completely silent. And the poor sufferer is just left with this grim, pragmatic compromise. You just have to accept that injustice is part of the deal. That's it. No comfort, no big revelation.
And this table really lays out that whole worldview perfectly. In their eyes, humans are nothing more than slaves to these distant, unknowable gods. So what's the final outcome going to be? Well, it's a pragmatic, if, deeply unsatisfying acceptance of misery. It's a pretty bleak place to start our journey, for sure.
But things don't stay that way, not by a long shot. Centuries later, we get a full-blown revolution. The Book of Job grabs that old Babylonian template and just completely flips it on its head. It demands nothing less than a reckoning with God himself.
See, Job absolutely refuses to be a passive victim. He doesn't just sit there and take it. He turns what was a quiet philosophical debate into this gripping cosmic drama. He doesn't see himself as a slave like his predecessor. No, he sees himself as a covenant partner with God, and he demands his day in court. This is a radical, game-changing shift in thinking.
And the main thing Job is arguing against is this idea called the retribution principle. It's that old, simple idea that if you suffer, well, you must have done something to deserve it. Good things happen to good people, bad things to bad people. Simple. The Book of Job takes a sledgehammer to this whole concept, arguing that reality is way, way more complicated and mysterious than that.
And this comparison just shows you how huge that transformation was. The protagonist's stance goes from a passive slave to an active partner. The divine response goes from total, deafening silence to a voice booming out of a whirlwind. And the resolution? It's not resignation anymore. It's the vindication of Job's integrity. It's a completely new answer to the question.
Okay, let's fast forward another 2 millennia, because the story evolves again. The legendary writer Goethe takes what he called the Jobian architecture and gives it this very modern twist. He creates a wager that's not about faith anymore, but about human striving.
Now, Goethe isn't just borrowing from Job. He's actively arguing with it. He pulls off what scholars call a deliberate thematic inversion. He's taking the same basic structure, but flipping all the core ideas upside down to say something new, something for his modern world.
So, how does he do it? Well, first, he inverts the whole test. Job was tested by deprivation, by having literally everything taken away from him. Faust, on the other hand, is tested by surfeit, by being given everything he could possibly want. Magic, youth, pleasure, you name it. The question isn't, can you endure loss anymore? It's, can you handle getting everything you ever dreamed of?
And that totally changes the terms of the bet. For Job, the wager is lost if he breaks and curses God. Simple. But for Faust, the wager is lost only if he stops trying, if he stops wanting more. If he ever becomes so happy and content that he wishes for a single moment to last forever, boom, Mephistopheles wins. Suddenly, failure isn't about blasphemy anymore, it's about stagnation.
Okay, so let's pull the camera back and look at the whole picture. When you look at these three masterpieces together, you can see this clear, powerful evolution in how we think about ourselves. It's a journey away from just accepting fate and towards embracing our own agency.
It's really a three-step evolution. First, there's resignation. Suffering is just a fact of life, and you deal with it. Then we get to vindication, with Job, who stands up and asserts his own integrity in the face of this cosmic mystery. And finally, we land on striving, with Faust, which basically says the whole point of life is the endless quest for more.
So each text tells a story that was perfect for its time. The Theodicy is a story of resignation. Job is this fiery testimony against simple, rigid rules. And Faust? Faust becomes a testament to what it means to be modern, to be in a constant state of endless becoming, always pushing, always reaching for what's next. So there you have it. 3 completely profound, yet totally different answers to one of our oldest questions, evolving across 3,000 years of history. Which brings us, of course, to right now. After all this time, what's our answer?